What is up, guys? Zan from the Zan Madden YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about this ever-evolving meta of aggressive catch streaks and what we can do to help slow them down. But before we do that, guys, please do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure you guys hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the uploads coming your way here on the Zan Madden YouTube channel. If you guys want to watch me play Madden 20 live, you guys can find me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ZanMadden. The link is below in the description, and I do have exclusive subscriber-only content for my Twitch Prime and Tier 1 subscribers. My Tier 2 subscribers will receive my full Washington Redskins Hot Route Master offense on top of those sub-tips that go out each and every Friday. You guys can find me live on the channel every afternoon around 2 p.m. Central Time. Okay, guys, let's get into the topic of discussion. This ever-evolving meta, the most effective tactic available of throwing aggressive catch streaks. This is something that really started to pop up early last week, maybe even late the week before, and we're starting to see it all over the place right now. So we're going to talk about my experience with it, my experience defending it, and what I think we could do as a community to help counter this. I've got some ideas that are ability oriented. I've got some ideas that are roster construction oriented, and I've got some ideas that are ratings oriented. So I've got ways that we could maybe kind of counter this without being too impactful on your team or your wallet. So let's go ahead and talk about what it is first. So a little tip within the tip, kind of teach you how to do it because you're certainly going to be facing it. So typically what this is a formation with a wide receiver that is on the line of scrimmage, not off, on the line of scrimmage with streak specialists. So for instance, the one that I'm seeing a lot is the Oakland Raiders playbook, and it is the I form Y off because both of the receivers are on the line of scrimmage and the tight end is the one that is off. So both the receivers, you slap streak specialist on them, you make sure they're 6'4", 6'5", and you throw these inside position streaks and just get these one-man catch interactions on the ball. As you can see, Mike Evans is already in the zone because it's really easy to do once you get the timing down on it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to throw the ball up and click off of him to take him out of the zone. And we'll kind of talk about how you can use this streak specialist ability to really body up and get some sideline catches, because that's an area on the field that is rather tough to exploit without rolling out and throwing a corner. So from a game balance standpoint, I don't necessarily hate that this is a thing right now. Yeah, it kind of has some Madden 16 vibes to it, but there is, in my opinion, way more risk to this strategy than there was ever throwing face catches in 16, or honestly in the years where there was like rack swerving and things like that. To me, there feels more risk in this tactic. So I'm not going to be perfect on this. This isn't something that I spam all game long. It's something I do occasionally. But you just put the guy on a streak, preferably to the wide side of the field. And you're just going to wait for the defensive back's hips to turn and turn his back to the quarterback. And you're going to throw an up and outside lead. Now, again, I'm not going to catch all of these, but hopefully we can kind of show you what I'm talking about. You see right there, first example, I threw a pick. And the reason is you got to click on and get inside positioning to try to play what's called a one-man interaction on the ball. And if you're wondering what a one-man is, it's basically an animation, what you see right there, where you are breaking free of the two-man catch interaction. So we've had this catch system in Madden for the last 4 years. It's a two-man catch interaction. And what that essentially means is when the ball's thrown in the air, in order to make the game look fluid and cool and make it look more like football where guys are, really fighting for the ball in the air, they have these suction animations where it basically dice rolls and randomly pulls an animation interaction out of the bucket that determines whether or not the receiver wins or the defensive back wins in terms of an interception or a catch knockout. So basically it's pulling an animation out of the bucket based off of ratings that are in the game. It could be jump, spec catch, things like that, versus zone coverage jump, things like that as well. We'll get into more of the ratings here in a second. But we're breaking free of this catch interaction where we are playing a one-man, meaning it's just a solo play on the ball as if he was wide open. And the defensive back behind him is playing a one-man in that as if he is just trying to break free of the catch system and swat. And because of this, you got two guys that are playing their own interactions on the ball, and the body positioning really matters here in that we get Mike Evans to catch this ball. Now, if you practice this for hours, you can become rather proficient at it. It is pretty easy to do. Again, I'm not somebody who spams the heck out of this, but you can just see, I mean, I do it again right there and he falls and we're able to roll in for a touchdown. Pretty easy to do with just a little bit of practice. Now, that's not what this tip is about. Of course, I just taught you guys how to do it. There's going to be people that are going to yell at me because they only watch the first 5 minutes of the video and they don't actually watch the final 6 to 10 minute portion of the video to learn what I'm going to take you guys into and teach you guys some theory crafting on stopping this. So let's go ahead and talk about what you need to counter this. Now, I played Ryan Hollins, who, as you guys know, is a former NBA player, works kind of freelance with some of the talking head shows on sports television. And he plays a little bit of Madden, pretty solid, in the top 100. And his whole strategy right now is this. I mean, he is literally just coming out in this, and he is just putting Megatron and I want to say also Kelvin Benjamin golden ticket, and he's just throwing streaks to either side. And it's pretty annoying. I mean, this is basically what ends up happening, right? So what can we do to counter this? Now, the first thing I want to talk about is obviously you need height. You need height on your defensive backs. You need a big body to counter a big body. So that kind of goes without saying. So big body defensive backs are always huge. Now, obviously, 6'5", 6'4" defensive backs to counter 6'5" and 6'4" wide receivers in real life, those are a rarity. So you're not going to find guys that are just as big as Mike Evans unless you want to talk about golden ticket items. We'll get there in a second as well. So let's talk about abilities. Now, obviously here on the Bears, Kyle Fuller does not have abilities. He's just got pick artist. And had he had man coverage, like if we were playing man coverage and we had the man up ability, that's going to add better break on ball reactivity when the quarterback is winding up. And it's going to add better catch knockout chance, whether it be a swat or play the receiver animation. So you could play the receiver instead of trying to play a swat. And if he has that ability, he'll actually jar it loose a little bit more often. The same can be said from the zone out ability. You're playing cover 3, cover 4, outside defensive back goes down the sideline, breaks on the ball, play the receiver, and then because he has the zoned out ability, his catch knockout chances are much higher. He should jar the ball loose. That is a way that you can counter it. But a lot of people don't feel comfortable playing receiver. But you could do that in this example. So that is one way you could do it. Now, I understand many people out there do not want to put abilities on their outside corners. They feel like they want safety abilities. And if they don't want safety abilities, they assuredly want pass rush abilities with their edge rushers or nose tackle. Me personally, I run 2 edge rushers and a nose tackle in my 3-4 bear, and I have no abilities on my coverage players whatsoever. No enforcer, no nothing. So for me, this wouldn't even be something that's viable. So we'll continue talking about, ways to get around it if you are like me and you don't want to do this. But if you guys have safety abilities and you haven't mainly for enforcer, just maybe consider using one of those slots as zoned out. Just because I say that in a situation where you're getting bodied up on the outside and you need an emergency solve, you might have to take that safety out of center field and use his zoned up ability or zoned out ability on the sideline against this strategy to use that. And you could just find a defensive back to cover the field with, or a backup safety without an ability. Because trust me, it's going to be harder for your opponent to move the ball without those streaks than it is with those streaks, than it is for you to get stops without a safety with abilities, if you get what I'm saying. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as well. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is a rating that I believe adds a ton of risk to the offensive side. And that is going to be the spec catch rating of your defensive backs. So when you take a look, a lot of people are probably like, spec catch, that's a wide receiver thing. But no, it's actually a defensive back thing as well. So you take a look at the SPC of your players. Now, for me personally, I look for the SPC of my defenders to be above 80, preferably above 85. Now, in regs, this is super hard to come by. Super hard to come by. I mean, you could look throughout the game and probably only find maybe 1 or 2 people that are above 80 spec catch on defense in regs. I don't even know what the answer to that truthfully is. I would say maybe 2 or 3 defensive backs at most. But in MUT, this is something that is a much more feasible option for you, which is honestly where this problem lives more often than not, is in MUT. So I'm going to take you guys over to good old MUThead, great database, my former employer, and we are going to take a look at some players. As you can see, I have sorted by defensive backs, safeties, free safety and strong safety, and I have sorted by spectacular catch. And I want to show you guys some options that you guys can choose. Now, for you big ballers with the budget, Mike Evans, golden ticket as your defensive back. This is your counter to your Megatrons and your Kelvin Benjamins. 6'5", 95 speed, really good man in zone, and he's got 90 spec catch. This is your anti-spec catch guy right here, 1.3 million. You might consider, if you have that coinage available and you're that worried or you struggle that much with this, go ahead and go with the Mike Evans. But that's not what I would do. That's not at all what I would do, because you could get a pair of aggressive catch counter meta players for 25K. Herman Moore, 6'4", 87 speed. Again, not fast, but if you are facing someone who is a blatant aggressive catch streak chucker, you can play off coverage with his 89 zone coverage. Lockdown's going to power him up to 92 if you have full lockdown. And then obviously Coach Madden and things like that boost it a little bit further. He's got 87 spec at 6'4". This is not a position Herman Moore that is worth using. And then, of course, free safety Randy Moss. This is a guy that can also play the other outside spot at 6'4", 87 spec catch, 94 zone coverage, so you don't have to do anything crazy there. You can get those guys as emergency aggressive catch counter guys for 25K. 8.5K for Herman Moore, 17.1K for Randy Moss. And then what you do is you just put them on your depth chart as like kick returners, or I don't even know if they could go to kick returners. Put them as like backup slot defenders or something, like guys that don't actually affect your chemistries, but you could still put the chemistries on them and get the boost as a result of having full lockdown or full sprinter or full whatever on those guys. Now, if you don't want to go that cheap route and you actually want a guy who can start and do a little bit of everything for you for an affordable price, my current guy is Patrick Peterson. This Draft Heroes Patrick Peterson, powered up, is an absolute monster. When I played Ryan Hollins last week, he threw nothing but streaks at me. I beat him 35-7 in the first half. Patrick Peterson had 4 interceptions in the first half, going solo down the field against Kelvin Benjamin. One-on-one with Kelvin Benjamin, I just played off coverage, cover 3, and let this guy at 6'1" with 87 spec go and just get his fair share of picks. Now, I did give up an aggressive catch for a touchdown. It was 35-7, and he was basically 1 of 8 passing for 72 yards and a touchdown. But every single other time he threw that ball at Patrick Peterson plucked it away. So what you are doing is you aren't necessarily changing the amount of aggressive catches you give up, but you are going to give yourself a chance to intercept the ball. Whereas right now, it feels like if you don't have spec catch on the outside, you basically have to pray that your defensive back catches the guy while he's in the air, and then that guy drops the ball, and you have a second defender there to catch the ball as he drops it. You don't get any one-on-one down the sideline, just blatant interceptions right now, unless your opponent clicks on and screws up their user on this play. So having a guy like Patrick Peterson that can get his fair share of getting his nose in there and just playing the ball and plucking it away is enough to add some risk factor to the offensive player's mind and make them think, do I want to live on this? Because there are plenty of people out there that are just living on this right now. Now, if you're thinking about players to kind of invest in, we know that as we hit the summer months that Antonio Cromartie is due for an upgrade. This is the original spec interception guy. This was the only guy in Madden 08 when spectacular catching first came into Madden 08, almost 12 years ago. Antonio Cromartie was the only defensive back in Madden in 08 that could get spectacular catch animations, and it was one of the main reasons players used the Chargers that year as one of the top meta teams. So I wanted to make sure that this is in your mind. You guys can get a platoon of defensive backs for a cheap price of 25K to counter these guys in the meantime, or you could spend a little bit more on a corner that could do it all, or you could go ahead and just shut this down for the big baller budget of 1.3 million. And if you're looking for a guy to invest in that could be that amazing counter to the aggressive catch to be paired with Patrick Peterson in the future, your man is Antonio Cromartie. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, be sure to drop those below, and we'll see you guys tomorrow with our next upload. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.